But as I sit here, I listen to her, and I listen to Pastor Manny, and I'm really amazed. You know I don't look that old, but Phyllis was one of my students when I was teaching at Dallas Junior High School. And I know I don't look that old, and I just feel privileged that she has blossomed so very articulate, and that little young lady that was so shy is now a toe-stomping activist, and I'm so proud of her. And Pastor Manning, I can remember her at J.L. Newman, and she wouldn't say 2 words. And she was behind that computer all the time and doing her job. And to see her stand here and just show you her leadership administrative style, I mean, it is just amazing what people can do once they're given the opportunity to do it. But first of all, I want to tell you how comfortable it has been for me to be retired. It's one of those things when you say that you've paid your dues, it's time for you to relax, let somebody else pick up the torch, and they're going to do what's right. And that's what I try to do with the consolidation issue. I sat back and I said, well, you know, somebody is going to come forward and say, hey, this isn't right. There's something wrong with this. And I said, well, somebody. Valdosta is just too smart. It's a metropolitan statistical area. There's somebody in Valdosta going to say, there's another side of this story that needs to be told. And so I sat back and I kept waiting. I said, Lord, somebody's going to do it. I said, I know they're just not going to just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I said, somebody's going to say something. I spoke to the Valdosta Ministerial Alliance in 2006, and they asked me, well, how did we get this done? And I gave them my perspective on it. And I told them there were 2 ways to do it. And they said, well, thank you. And so I sat back and I was just going to ride my motorcycle and I was just going to have a good time. Sandra was going to retire in another year. And she could have retired before I did, so I really don't have a dog in this fight. But my background is I love children, and that has got me in trouble. Because that is what won't let me sit back and just let what's going on continue without me saying, hey, that's not right and that's not going to happen that way. Everything that you heard from QA is good, but they can't promise you those things. You know, on November the 8th, they're asking just the city to vote on giving up its charter. There are currently 21 independent school systems in the state of Georgia, and Valdosta County is just one of those 21 independent school systems. But you don't get those charters anymore. Once you give yours up, you're through. Well, the Constitution of Georgia says that the county is responsible for educating everybody in the county, unless you have an independent school system. Well, Valdosta, just like most of inner city school systems, is majority African American. And what they're trying to tell me, which I can't fathom to understand, is, first of all, I believe every child can learn. Every child doesn't learn the same way, but every child can learn. Some children learn by touching, some children learn by seeing, but not everybody in this room is going to learn the same way. And their thought pattern is that the only way that we're going to be able to help our black children is that we've got to have them sit by a white child. And I just don't buy it. I believe that every child, if they have the economical means, can learn. But first of all, you've got to help their parents economically. A child is not going to be interested in getting a good quality education if their parents are worried about it, if they're worried about where their next meal is coming from. If you've got $300,000 to run this campaign to give up this charter, then why not put that $300,000 in the school system to help save some of those jobs on people who had to be furloughed and lower your class size? If you're so interested in our children's education, then why not get together and put your money to help the situation? What we're seeing is that we're seeing a collective effort by a small group of people to get something done that is bigger than what we know. Because we're seeing people that are suddenly involved in African Americans' education that have never been interested in African American education before. In fact, when it was their opportunity, when they had the opportunity to send their children to school, they opted out. They didn't send their kids to the city. They didn't send them to the county. They sent them to private school. And who's going to win once the dust is settled? The private schools, your charter system, Berrien County, Cook County, Lanier County, because you cannot control where people live. If consolidation happens on November the 9th, they tell me on their questions that nothing's going to change. Something has to change. Something has to change. You know, I'll never forget, I was on my way to church one Sunday, and I had to come by Park Avenue Bank. Come by Park Avenue Bank every time I'm leaving home. I'm going to South. I passed by Park Avenue Bank, and I saw some cars in the driveway, and I didn't think anything about the cars, because they have a senior citizen group, and every once in a while they go on travel trips, and they park in the parking lot, and I didn't think anything was unusual, so I went on to church. When I came back from church, I saw this red banner. And I said, well, they must be getting ready to celebrate. They always celebrate their 125th anniversary or something like that. And as I got closer, it said, the Bank of the Ozarks. So from the time that I left going to church at 11 o'clock and the time that I was going back home at 1 o'clock, this bank that was once Park Avenue Bank is now the Bank of the Ozarks. Now, I can imagine that on Monday morning, when those folks went into that bank and said, I want to make sure that my money is safe, I bet you every teller there told every customer that, oh, there's no change. Everything is the same. But not everything is the same. Something had to change. If it wasn't any problem, then why did Park Avenue Bank? My other question is, how do you unify? You know, I had a real problem with this because for years we've always called this thing consolidation. We've always called it consolidation. You know, consolidation has been on the books for Valdosta Lowndes County for years and years. When I moved to the superintendent's office, they were talking about consolidating the two school systems. They've been talking about it forever. But now all of a sudden they believe that we are so narrow-minded, that we're so uneducated, that we didn't know the meaning of consolidation, so we're going to change it to unification this time. So we're going to walk like a duck, we're going to quack like a duck, but we're going to call it something else. So now when people come to your door now, they're going to say, oh, we want you to sign this petition because we want to unify our school system. Well, is this the same thing as consolidation? Oh, no, this is unification. Oh, I certainly want to unify, so I'm going to sign this. And so now we're going to have it on a ballot in November. But we're only going to allow the city to vote. Now, the last election that I was a part of, which was the East Block, there was $165 million on the ballot for the city and the county to vote on. There are 48,000 registered voters in the city and county of Valdosta Lowndes County. It passed with 3,900 votes. And what this group is planning on is they're planning on this bill, this charter passing on less than 4,000 people voting.
Explain that to me.
Because they feel that people on the south end of town won't go to the polls. So their biggest option is getting 7,500 people to sign that petition. Once they get the petition done, they can get it on the ballot. Once it gets on the ballot and November 8th comes, then they're not going to come back over here to ask you to vote, so they know you're not going to vote anyway. So this issue, at the end of the day, 4,000 people are going to make this decision, and they've already said that there's no cost savings. You're not going to save any money. Well, now, who's going to lose their jobs on this thing? Now, the county already has a stake. Okay, so the city has a stake. Well, if you're going to merge, somebody got to go home. I mean, how many finance directors do you need? How many curriculum directors do you need? Somebody got to go home. And you know, I'm reminded of when integration occurred in my community. My principal became an assistant principal. My head football coach became an assistant head football coach. What's going to happen here is that they're not going to have those opportunities. They're just going to disappear. Because